welcome back to Well, That's Interesting, the You're About to Be So Damn Impressed in About a Minute edition. Today is episode 226. Let's talk about the largest known eagle to ever exist and the discovery of male spiders that care for their young. My friends, if you're a long-time listener of this show, then you know we love a few things around here. First and foremost, we love holes. Yes, holes found in deep sea to deep space. We love humans, finding themselves as accidental hosts to parasites whose usual life cycle completes in pigs or cows or reptiles. For example, please for the love of God, don't eat a live crab out of a river in Vengeance. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, listen to episode 197, Man Hospitalized After Eating Live Crab in Vengeance, and What's in the Mouths of Mayan Sacrificial Victims if you haven't, because then you'll understand why. We also love gigantic fucking creatures, and we fall head over heels if those creatures turn out to be birds. Way the fuck back. In episode 137, we learned about two inconceivably large skeletons unearthed in gorgeous New Zealand, and one of them turned out to be the bulkiest, maximum-sized business goose discovered so far. I'm talking about a penguin. A penguin whose humerus, aka the upper portion of the arm, was more than 9.5 inches long, whose total body was estimated to weigh in at a staggering 340 pounds, and it stood approximately 5 feet 2 inches tall. For context, I'm 5'3". That is too much fucking bird, and as such, researchers named this big old beauty Kumumanu, a mashup of the Maori words monster and bird. Even farther back, in episode 128, cave isolated for 5 million years, teeming with life, and demon ducks of doom. Yeah, we spoke about demon ducks, and our lives changed forever. In 1981, thousands of eggshell fragments dating back to the Pleistocene were found strewn across Australia, and they had evidence that they'd been cooked. Now, some of these eggshells could be traced to ancient emus, but other fragments, when puzzled together, they didn't fit that criteria. When the weight of the shell and its contents were scaled up, just one egg, weighed in at around 3.5 pounds or 1.6 kilos. Now, for Americans, that's about the size of a melon. And one cannot but ask, whose hoo-ha could lay such a thing? Fast forward to the DNA sequencing power of 2023, and researchers were able to confirm that egg was squeezed out of a duck. A goddamn duck. And it was called Guineornis newtoni, who stood over 6.5 feet tall and weighed 530 pounds. Are you horrified? Great, because it's about to get worse. In the first half of the show, we are sticking around this part of the world, and we are adding a brand new bird to the mix. We're traveling back in time to the bullshit year of 2021 and landing in magnificent New Zealand. And here, I will introduce you to a creature whose name in the Maori language translates to Old Glutton. It's relatable. But, on the other hand, this eagle had talons 4 inches in length. And if that's too long for you too, oh God, you are right. That's the same length as a tiger's claw. Now, although most of this extinct animal's remains suggest it was one big-ass eagle, there was one part of it that left scientists completely and deeply confused. Its skull. We're going to get into more of this bird's dimensions. We're going to get into its history and theories as to why it went extinct, and a new discovery about its skull that makes its name, Old Glutton, extremely on point. And spoiler, it's fucking gross. After the break, we also love a good spider on this show. Back in November, in episode 214, we learned why tarantulas are so hairy and that they have friendships, or symbiotic relationships, with completely different species, like frogs and snakes Now, something else that will surprise you. Rafael Rios Moara of the Federal University of Uberlandia in Brazil and his team, they did a little digging in a eucalyptus plantation and they witnessed an absolute first. Until now, just one species of male spider has ever been seen protecting its young, and that was the African social spider Stegodipus dumicola. Nailed it. Now this spider, the Stegodipus, is a spider species native to Central and Southern Africa. It's known for living in large colonies. Yes, that happens sometimes. They share food, they work together, it's very communal. But here, today, we're going to talk about a single dad fighting off predators and building a home to protect his unhatched execs. We're going to learn more about this species, and it's going to warm your heart. In the meantime, hi, I'm Jill Chacha, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my appropriately sized business goose. To begin, I'm going to ask you to grow out your mutton chops and or to slip into your finest horsehair ruffled petticoat because we're dialing the old time machine way the fuck back to 1871. You and I are currently trespassing on what has become known as the Glenmark Estate, a sprawling, luxurious, unnecessarily opulent mansion currently under construction in North Canterbury. And for my fellow geographically challenged Americans who are itchy from the petticoat and are wondering where and why we're here exactly, don't worry, I've got you. Everyone, please imagine New Zealand, whose shape resembles that of a comma. Now please divide that comma into two islands, where the southern island is longer than the one to the north. Perfect. Now, with a finger, draw something of a huge rectangle beginning at the middle of the southern island and go up, keep going nearly to the tippity top. Okay, that is what's known today as Canterbury. And because this is New Zealand, the landscape is beyond breathtaking. From 1 to 10, it's like 147 on the shut up it's too gorgeous scale. You've got grassy plains, clear lakes, snow-capped mountains, barf, barf, barf. If you give it an image search, you'll understand why it is absolutely no surprise that when European settlers began arriving in the 1800s, their first thought was grabby-grabby. Western settlers, like George Henry Moore, whose nickname, I shit you not, was Scabby Moore. I'll leave why to your imagination. Moore arrived in New Zealand in 1853, all in hopes to build, baby build, and produce a legacy. By the 1870s, a plot of land caught Scabby's eye, and construction of the Glenmark Estate began. Now, if you'd like to see a reproduction of the final result, drop whatever shovel you're holding and pick up your phone. Head on over to our social media stuffs and tap on today's post, and you'll see an illustration of the house as provided by Christchurch City Libraries. The caption underneath explains that the estate was, quote, considered by many to be the most perfectly appointed residence in New Zealand. The artificial waterfalls, constructed at great expense by water brought in from a long distance, the conservatories, one large, serving as a winter garden and covering a large expanse of ground, and the beautifully laid out and perfectly kept grounds, lawns, and flower beds made a most elegant and artistic residential estate. End quote. Well, Jesus, my elegant business goose, those artificial waterfalls and lakes had to be dug out of the ground. And as such, on a show like this, you know what the fuck happened. Bones were discovered. In this case, animal bones, which were scooped up and hurriedly rushed to the Canterbury Museum taxidermist, a guy named Frederick Richardson Fuller, who, after stitching and stuffing and doing his taxidermy thing, stood back and saw something unusual. It was a bird, for sure, but its proportions were at the same time gigantic and stubby. Julius von Haast, a German-born New Zealand explorer, geologist, and founder of the Canterbury Museum, was called into the scene where he did his own clickety-clack scientific analysis and was like, oh, wait, this is something new. Haast named the eagle Harpagornis mori, after old Scabby Moore, with the genus name after the Greek word harpax, meaning grappling hook, and ornis, meaning bird. Being 1871, the best Haast could do was make his analysis using visuals and comparing the dimensions of the animal's bones to known birds of the time. It looked like a harpy eagle, and it was one hell of an unusual one. For the next 150 years or so, evolutionary biologists, ecologists, and researchers of all bird-loving types argued and theorized and finally tested the remains of this bird over and over as technology advanced. Let's get into it. To the Western world today, this bird's common name is the Haast eagle, so sorry, Scabby. And here are its insane dimensions. It is, still right the fuck now, the largest eagle to have ever existed, with the females clocking in at 10 to 18 kilograms or 22 to 40 pounds, and the males weighing in around 9 to 12 kilograms or 20 to 26 pounds. Now, if a 40-pound bird is a lot for you, you are right. Its weight is roughly 50% heavier than any raptor bird known today. The lower mandible of its beak was roughly and an ungodly 4.5 inches in length, and the bones in its feet stretched out to 5 and 6 inches, and at the end of them toes were 4-inch-long talons. This isn't even the weird stuff. For a bird so heavy, its wingspan was about the length of a bald eagle's, about 10 feet or 3 meters wide. For perspective, at its chonkiest, a bald eagle is around 14 pounds, but a female Haast could be around 40. Aerodynamically, the Haast eagle is a little bonkers. So over a century, researchers went back and forth over its ability to fly. Well, so many old men arguing, long story short, yes, it did fly. But it probably didn't have to fly very far. For you see, such a terrifying bird mostly fed on another ridiculously large bird, the moa, which were a family of 11 species of flightless birds with no wings at all. In indigenous artistic portrayals, they had an ostrich-like posture with small heads, but for the love of God, the largest species grew up to 3.7 meters or 12 feet tall, and they weighed up to 230 kilos, or a mind-fucking 510 pounds. A 12-foot bird. Okay, that is a lot of meat, and being flightless, a lot of meat that may have been easy pickings. So please, if you will, put a pin in this gigantic, delicious moa. As for an update on the moa, well, it went extinct 500 to 800 years ago with the arrival of the Maori people. To survive, the Maori also hunted these creatures and cracked open their enormous fragile eggs, which were about the size of a rugby ball, but had a shell it was only a scant 0.04 of an inch thick. With the moa eventually disappearing, so followed the Haast eagle, which, like I said, was a name given by the West. The Maori were well aware of this bird long before any Scabby Moore or Julius von Haast. This flying, rampaging beast was probably a thing of nightmares to the newly arrived Maori. Legends swirled of its existence. Lores spoke of its black, white, and red feathers, and cave paintings, yes, cave paintings, recorded its features. We know what this ancient bird looked like thanks to what I assume are some folks who ran for cover and had to pass the time, so they drew this fucking thing. And if you'd like to have a gander, pick up your phone and tap on today's post. You'll see this drawing consists of an eagle's body, but look closely at the head. Yeah, it's bald, like a vulture's. My furry business goose, what the Maori people called Hokaio, or Puaka, was bald. Now, this documentation set the ornithology world ablaze. Was this massive creature seemingly designed to claw and tear its victims apart like an eagle, really a scavenger? Like the vulture? My friends, not only were these drawings pointing to this suggestion, but the skulls themselves brought up this question. Anneke van Hettersen, nailed it, lead author of the new study we're headbutting right now and director of the mammalogy section at the Bavarian State Collection of Zoology in Munich, wanted to put an end to this mystery. Now, if you swipe on past the cave painting, you'll see an artist's depiction of Powaka from recent times, and if you swipe past that, you'll see its skull, its hooked beak, and, quote, bony scrolls around the nostrils, which couldn't be explained by a predatory lifestyle, end quote, said Anneke to Mindy Weisberger. Now, determined to figure out what in the holy hell Powaka did to Moa back in the day, Anneke and her team constructed modern-ass 3D models of the eagle's skull, its beak, its talons, and compared them to the bones and talons of 3 eagle species and 2 vulture species. The models also focused on the head and neck muscles and analyzed dozens of markers on the bones to determine which part of the feet and skull were working as the eagle went to town on its gigantic prey. The researchers then measured strain levels at several points on the skull and compared those measurements to spots in the same locations across all the bird skulls. So, after all the clickety-clack motherfucking things were clacked, what did they find? Drumroll, please. Thank you in the back. Quote, during certain behaviors, such as clutching prey at a death grip with their feet, the strain values for the host eagles resembled those of other eagles. Its beak, with the potential to deliver a death bite, was also very eagle-like. But the neurocranium, which is where all the neck muscles attach, that was much more vulture-like, end quote, Anneke told LiveScience.com. My hungry business goose. In sum, Powaka killed like an eagle, but its prey was so enormous, to reach those sweet, sweet innards and bird bits, the bird really had to get up all in there to take a bite. And by get up all in there, I mean sticking its head as far in as it could go. And just as with vultures, whose noggins are also bald, this might have been an evolutionary advantage to keep clean. Feathers coated with dead gunk leads to disease, and no one wants that around their face holes. Not even birds. So, thanks to ancient depictions and hyper-modern technology, we now know for sure that Powaka was truly a glutton, as its proper name suggests. After the break, we are leaving the frighteningly sized birds of New Zealand for itsy-bitsy spiders of South America. My friends, what if I told you there's at least one species whose male really loves their kids? Brace yourself for some impressive parenting. Next.
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
Este episodio es presentado por Honda. Descubra la nueva Honda Passport Trail Sport todoterreno. La Passport más todoterreno que Honda haya imaginado jamás. Esta Passport cuenta con mayor altura al suelo, barras de techo en todas sus versiones y neumáticas especialmente diseñados para cualquier terreno. Además, disfruta todos tus viajes con el control de clima de 3 zonas, techo panorámico y opciones como asientos delanteros con calefacción y ventilación. Conoce más en honda.com/Passport.
And we're back. We are so back. And my friends, I ask, what do you know about the parentalship of spiders? Well, if you're a long-time listener of this show, then you know most of the time. The story goes like this. a male leaves their web or burrow, stops eating altogether, and devotes his time to finding that special female, i.e. one that is impressed by his dance or offerings. If a connection is made, and that male is smaller than the female, well, let's just say, for example, in the wolf spider species, whose scientific name is, I shit you not, Hagna helluo, females eat the smaller males 80% of the time. 80%. With dad gone, either by cannibalism or a death brought on by a naturally short lifespan, mom takes the reins, who, after laying eggs, guards them in a webby nursery or burrow or even carries them on her back. When the spiderlings hatch, mom turns it up a notch, with going food herself by sharing prey items, coughing up some tasty regurgitation, or even sacrificing her entire body as a meal. In sum, most of the time, spider parenting is a solitary and even deadly endeavor. Most of the time. But every now and then, nature creates an exception that makes us humans go, oh shit, I wish I had a dad like that. Let's get into it. My friends, drop whatever loved one you're holding and pick up your phone, tap on today's post over at Instagram or Blue Sky, and swipe past all those gigantic bird photos. What you're going to see is a simple map of South America, and in that map are dots. Like a lot of dots, mostly bespeckling the majority of the East Coast. But good news. Each dot indicates where a particular spider can be found. But don't worry, it's going to be amazing. So please, join me, will you, in another lifetime, 2013 through 2015. We are standing within a eucalyptus plantation located in Fazenda Nova Monte Carmelo, which itself is in the municipality of Estrela do Sol, in Brazil. Okay, basically, we are in the lower right corner of Brazil, this bewitching country, and in a county whose population is around 8,000 people, and they are for sure outnumbered by the number of spiders here, but try not to think about that. Imagine instead a eucalyptus plantation, and we're joined by a trio of Brazilian researchers, Rafael Rios Moara, João Vasconcelos Nitab, and Marcelo de Oliveira Gonzaga. Okay, I think I nailed that. Anyway, they are here to observe the tiny but extraordinary species of spider that calls the low-lying branches of these trees home. Manaugia poricea. Now, the male is a golden speck of a thing, and the female is larger, with a green and yellow striped abdomen. And please, put a pin in this. In the meantime, Raphael and the gang are taking copious notes, and we need to talk about what they witnessed. My well-rounded business goose, after mating, neither parent runs off. In fact, no one eats the other. Instead, after the female lays eggs, in a dedicated webbed nursery, the male builds a dome-shaped web above it. The female does the same, but below the nursery. So basically, they created a family sandwich. And that formation, you guessed it, is to guard the egg sacs and protect them from predators and even brush rainwater off to keep them clean, warm, and to allow air to get inside. Both parents do the job. But here's where it gets even more interesting, if you will. 68% of the egg sacs were being tended to by a single adult male spider. 68%! Now, although that looks like some moms ran off to the store to buy milk and never returned, that's not the case. In an interview with Raphael and Susan Milius of ScienceNews.org, quote, "To predators, females must be very delicious," end quote, with ecologist Eric Yip of Penn State explaining, quote, "Females, geared up for egg laying, have rich nutrient stores." Yet that's generally true for all spiders, that females are going to be more nutritious and males are going to be mostly legs, end quote. So, my friends, unpin that pin. Females are larger and have way more sweet lipids, which make them a target much more often than their male leggy counterparts. In an evolutionary twist, it's possible males have evolved, in this species, to be super dads, stepping in to take mom's place, R.I.P., and doing double duty. In the gang study, titled Extended Male Care in Manogia Parisia, the exceptional case of a spider with amphisexual care, in situations where the female was absent, males moved closer to the egg sacs by occupying the female's side of the web. And after some clickety-clack calculations, the team noted that when dad or mom or both were around, the survival of the spiderlings more than doubled. But when both perished, however, only 4 spiderlings survived per egg sac. That's basically none. So, if it sounds like there are a shit ton of predators around and dad is doing some serious kung fu, you're right. In an experiment, Raphael and his Spider-Men captured several spider fathers, and in a Mad Max-like situation, the team released 4 species of local predatory spiders just to see what would happen. And to no one's surprise, Dad fucking attacked, defending his web. 5 spiders entered, but only 1 left. My heroic business goose. This is the only species known so far where a solitary male spider changes course after mating and becomes a central figure. That deserves like a world's best dad mug or something. I don't know. That'd be really cute if anyone wants to draw that up. We can make that happen. And thank you for listening, rating, creating a mug that says world's best dad on it, but it's a spider. You see it, right? Okay, tell your friends about the largest known eagle to ever exist. It's at the MOA. It's 12 feet tall. Yeah, especially that friend that's afraid of birds. We all have one. I have several. I can't wait to tell them. And an 8-legged thanks to the folks over at Airwave Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.